In this video, I will demonstrate how to calculate the magnitude, the unit vector of a vector. So, for example, let's say that we have vector b, which is 1 times 10 to the power of 2 minus 2 times 10 to the power of 2 and 3 times 10 to the power of 2. Now, this is the same vector that I used before when I calculated the magnitude of the vector. And back then, in that video, we found that the magnitude of this vector is 370. Now, the unit vector is a vector that we denote with this hat. So I have the character, the letter B, and then I use this hat to indicate that this quantity is the unit vector. This is how we indicate the magnitude. This is how we indicate the unit vector. Now, to calculate this, I need to divide the vector B with the magnitude of the vector B. Okay, what does this mean? This means that if I take the vector B and I will write the vector B here again, so this is my x component of vector B, this is my y component of vector B, and this is the z component of vector B. I have to divide this vector with the magnitude, which is 370. Now, when you have a vector divided by a number, you need to divide each component, the x component, for example, with this number 370. You have to divide the y component with 370 and the z component with 370. Now, the result is a vector, so you have to be careful with this. When you calculate the unit vector, you have to find a vector. So that's why I start by writing this left bracket here. Now, the x component of the unit vector is going to be the x component of vector B, so 1 times 10 to the 2, divided by 370, by this number right here. The y component is going to be the y component of vector B minus 2 times 10 to the 2 divided by 370, the number that I have in the denominator. And the z component is 3 times 10 to the 2 divided by, again, 370. And this is the end of my vector. I have an x component, a y component, and a z component. And if we do these calculations, we will find that the unit vector B is approximately 0.27, and note this is a positive number because this is a positive number because the x component of the vector B was a positive number. Now the y component is minus 0.53, and this is a negative number because this is a negative number because the y component of the vector B was a negative number, and the z component is 0.8. So this is the unit vector of vector B. Now, again, to remind you, the reason why we call this the unit vector is because if you go ahead and you calculate the magnitude of this one, you will find this to be 1. This is why we call these vectors the unit vector.